Hey Eagle fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome to Philadelphia Eagles Now. And today, kind of a unique, interesting video I have planned for you. I'm going to give you 4 Eagle players currently on the roster going into the 2020 season that either are coming off good seasons or bad seasons, but could actually see a downturn in their production going forward in 2020. Hopefully this doesn't happen. I know all Eagle fans want these players to play well, but there are some, I think, statistics and reason for a little bit of doubt going into 2020. We'll break all that down, starting with a player that I love and is very dear to most Eagle fans' hearts. It's Brandon Graham. Yes, Brandon Graham is my first on this list on a player who could take a step back in 2020. Now, I mentioned these are some players who either played well in 2020 or 2019 or did not play well in 2019 who still take a step back. Well, Brandon Graham played very well in 2019. He's one of the bright spots on the Eagle defensive line that had a lot of injuries and a lot of players not healthy. The big deal right now with Graham is the age. He's 32 years old, turned 32 this past April. Despite the fact he's able to stay healthy and has been very healthy the past 4 seasons, you could see a drop in his performance and a drop in his playing time due to the rise of the young player Josh Sweat, the young defensive end out of Florida State, who's going to be going into his 3rd year now as an Eagle. Now, let me just say this. I think Graham can still dominate. I know the age is an issue here, and obviously younger players behind him trying to get playing time. I think Graham can still dominate, and last year he proved that because really, the last 4 seasons he's been really good. Now, the sack numbers weren't great in 2018. You see 9.5 sacks there in 2019, but 2018, 4 sacks, 9.5 sacks again in 2017, the Super Bowl year where he was fantastic, and of course 2016, 5.5 sacks as well. He's been very good in the run. He's been a very consistent defensive end who struggled early on when he came out of Michigan, but has found his way in the 4-3 defense, especially under Jim Schwartz. The reason, again, we talk about a potential downswing in his stats, it's not just the age, it's because of young Josh Sweat, who later round draft pick, had the knee injury coming out of college, and yet last year, in a very limited number of plays, I mean, barely was out there, had 40 sacks. He had 4 sacks overall, which is not a ton, but is still already halfway behind Brandon Graham, despite the fact he was on the field for over half as less snaps. Sweat could see an increase in the role there, which could be a big opportunity for him because we know whoever is playing the defensive end spot, whether it's Barnett, whether it's Graham, or whether it's someone else like Josh Sweat, is going to have a lot of one-on-one opportunities because the combination of Hargrave, Malik Jackson, and Fletcher Cox will create a lot of one-on-one chances. So hopefully whoever is there at DN can dominate. I just worry a little bit about a guy like Brandon Graham, again, because of age and because there is some young players behind him, aka Josh Sweat and even Jannard Avery, who could come in there and take a lot of his roles. So you could see that 9.5, 8.5 sacks come dwindle back down to a more 2018 4.5 sacks. Still be a leader, still make an impact, but not as big as it was this past season. Question for you guys here. Out of all the players, and we're going to mention 3 more here, but of all the Eagles on the roster right now, which Eagle player, I know it's hard to pick one, could have a downswing or a down year in 2020? Give me the player and give me the reason why in the comment section down below. All right, moving on. Next player here is one that I really hope has an upswing, but you start going through the facts and the fact of his age and the position he plays, and you kind of go, is it actually going to happen? DeSean Jackson on my list again. Now, again, I'm going to mention age for the first 2 players, but the next 2 players, I think age is not really a factor, and we'll explain that here in a second, but it has to be said. DeSean Jackson's 33 years old and will be getting close to 34 by the start of next season. He just recently turned 33. And when you look at NFL wide receivers as they get over 33, that's kind of the cutoff number where they stop being as dominant as they once were. Problem with Jackson really has been his health, and we know this in Philadelphia, not just last year, but in previous years when he was an Eagle as well. He's not at a 1,000-yard season since 2016. Now, he went to Washington, he went to Tampa Bay, obviously pre-Tom Brady, so not a lot of good quarterbacks throwing to him, but he has not had a big ball-out year in a very long time. So you pair that with the fact that the Eagles got a lot of young, talented wide receivers who are in the mold of DeSean Jackson, and even though his numbers weren't great last year because he didn't play, you could see another down year for DeSean compared to the hopefully 1,000-yard receiver a lot of Eagle fans are hoping that he could get. Last 4 seasons, here you go for DeSean Jackson. Obviously, 2019, barely played. Those 9 catches are basically from the first 2 games of the season, and then he had 1 in the Bear game before he went back out with the injury. So it showed, at least in the Redskin game, he still has it. So if he can stay healthy like he was week 1, these stats can be fantastic. But even back 2018, only 774 yards, 2017, 668 yards, and then there was 2016, his big breakout year where he had 1,000 yards and averaged like 17.7 yards per catch. He was great that year. That's the year you're hoping to have. Now, again, The reason why you might not see that this year with DeSean Jackson is because of the new additions. You got Marquise Goodwin, who is 29 years old, so he's younger and is in the mold. Now, I'm not a huge Marquise Goodwin fan, but hopefully, at least the Eagles hope he can be a DeSean Jackson type player, a deep threat for what we're going on here. You have Jalen Reagor, who was the 21st overall pick and who a lot of people are hoping is the next DeSean Jackson. And everyone says, in terms of catching the football and yards after catch, is better than DeSean was coming out of California. And then you have later round guys who have speed, but you don't really know the talent. John Hightower and Quez Watkins. The Eagle receiving core completely revamped itself. Hopefully further the better, but at least they went in the mold of DeSean Jackson. So as an Eagle fan, I think you guys should understand why you'd put DeSean Jackson on this list. But the flip side, the glass half full, positive outlook of this is Jackson can be the mold, can show these young players how to dominate, and then you have both DeSean Jackson and the young players playing well at the same time. Could be very, very good in Philadelphia. Hopefully, at least, he's healthy. That's the one hope, really, out of all this for DeSean. Doesn't matter if he takes a step back or not. If he's on the football field, he's dangerous enough to be a threat, and hopefully he can just be on the football field and be the threat that we want him to really be. Okay. Before we keep going, though, I've kind of engaged before. DeSean Jackson probably going to get about 5 touchdown catches. Like this video if you think he's going to have more than 5 catches and more than 5 touchdowns going in or throughout the season. Like the video if you guys think he's going to have 5+ touchdown catches. I think if he has 5+, means he's playing for at least 10 of the 16 games, which honestly is better than the 2-3 he played in last season. So obviously you have to go ahead and wait and see. Now, the jersey sale is still going on for Brian Dawkins. Yes, Weapon X B-Docs jersey is on sale, and as I said in a video a couple days ago, this is the one jersey you go to Lincoln Financial Field, and it's a player not actively on the football field you see the most. It's Brian Dawkins. The all-black Dawkins 20 is on sale right now, 20% off at chatsports.com/Dawkins, $119. Literally 20% off, sitting there, $119. Chatsports.com/Dawkins. You guys can get a jersey that your grandkids could wear in 30 years, and it would still be relevant because of how great of an Eagle he was and really still is, as he's a part of the organization and so many little ways on and off, or really off the football field right now. Okay, next 2 players are going to be interesting. And this one I'm going to argue right now is Andre Dillard in terms of potential player to have a down year. You might hear Andre Dillard and go, Thomas, he barely played last year and was not good last year, so, a down year, he's going to have another down year? What's the whole thought process on this? So here's the deal. It's looking like Andre Dillard will be the starter at left tackle, which I'm excited about because I think that he's supposed to be at that role after being a first-round draft pick and taken really in the early 20s back a couple of drafts ago. He gets to start at left tackle. The problem is when he played last year for the injured Jason Peters, he struggled. Now, he was moved around to right tackle a little bit and was awful over there. Left tackle was a little bit better, but the limited amount of snaps we've seen of Andre Dillard has not been good. And when you draft the guy out of Auburn, and it's hard to pronounce his name overall, we talked about this at the draft, Prince Tega, you look at a guy who has nothing to lose, a late-round draft pick who could potentially steal Andre Dillard's spot. Now, before we keep going, though, be sure to subscribe to Philadelphia Eagles now because we're approaching 11,000 subs, which is crazy here on the channel. So if you like what we do, got a bunch of subs yesterday, trying to keep that momentum going here as we're giving you guys nonstop wall-to-wall coverage every day almost here on Philadelphia Eagles now, so give us a subscribe. But you go back to the Eagles tackle depth chart, and you hope Dillard can be that guy. But he really has not shown to be that he can be that guy, and the coaching staff, it feels like, does not have a lot of trust in him. So when you have Prince, and you have Jordan Mailata, who of course was taken, the rugby guy, drafted late a couple of years ago, and has kind of been the understudy and was supposed to be the heir apparent, but really hasn't played much, you see a lot of room for error, or little room for error for Andre Dillard. If he struggles early, could not only take a step back, but lose that starting job at the left tackle spot overall. The big deal with Dillard, the main reason why we talk about him so much and why people are so critical, because of where he was taken in the draft and who was taken after him. Philadelphia technically did not need a left tackle in that draft because Jason Peters was going to come back for the 2019 season, but yet they passed up on a wide receiver in Marquise Brown and a pass rusher in Montez Sweat and a really good safety in Jonathan Abram, and then a good right tackle in Caleb McGarry you could have switched over. So that's the pressure Andre Dillard has, and that's why you go into this season hoping he's going to be fantastic and start and be the next great left tackle, but you also are a little hesitant going, man, he's got to figure it out because he could be a player who was bad last year and could get even worse and then eventually benched here in 2020. Final player on my list, and this, let me tell you, not an easy list to put together because I think a lot of the Eagle players could be on the opposite side of this, breakout candidates instead of guys who could take a step back, but I wanted to look at the defense one more time and look in that secondary, and you start to think about Rowdy McCloud. And you look at Rodney McLeod, who turns 30 in June, and you wonder, health-wise, is he going to be good to go? And two, are there younger, better players at the safety spot already on the Philadelphia Eagles roster? So we know back in 2018, tore the MCL Week 3 against the Colts, didn't play the rest of the year. He did start all 16 games in 2019, which is huge. But as we mentioned, the Eagles are very young at safety, so there could be not a competition, but if McLeod struggles, a changing of the guard there in the secondary, losing Jenkins, obviously going to free agency, put in Mills, and then looking at some other safeties who have been signed this offseason, which we'll show you guys in a second. Who do you think starts at the free safety spot? Or who do you think, let me rephrase it this way. Who's the best safety on the Eagles right now? Is it McLeod? Is it Mills, who hasn't even played safety yet? Or is it someone else? Type M down below for McLeod, type J down below for Jalen Mills, or type O down below for other. Because as we're going to see, a lot of good young players have been added to the Eagles secondary here during this offseason. McLeod, again, good in 2019. I think is a good free safety. Was not rated a top 10 safety, a top 10 free safety in the league last year. I think I saw him rated, I mean, Pro Football Focus had him at like 18 or 19, but still, was not the worst safety in the league. But the big deal, of course, is who was added. So your safety depth chart, obviously your starters right now are McLeod and Jalen Mills, but you have Will Parks and Kayvon Williams, who both a lot of fans are very, very excited about. Brian Dawkins has given his seal of approval to both of these guys. Obviously, Parks and Walsh are technically strong safeties, but you can move them over to the free. And a guy like Kayvon Wallace, who is a mid-round draft pick, not a lot to lose, a lot of good experience playing at Clemson. If McLeod were to struggle and feels the heat from the rookies behind him, then you could see a changing in the guard there at the safety spot, and McLeod could have a more down year than what he did in 2019. There you go. That's the list. It was an interesting task. So I obviously want to be positive here on Philadelphia Eagles now, and I want to talk about the good that we're expecting to see in Philadelphia, and a lot of it is good. But if there was a list of players that you had to ask me who could take a step back, it is Graham, it is Jackson, it could be Andre Dillard and Rodney McLeod at the same time. I want to explain my thought process and reasoning on that as well. All the time we have for today on Philadelphia Eagles Now. I'm Thomas Mott, signing off. Enjoy the rest of your day.